There's change to the agenda as far as 6.4. Brian is having some breathing stuff tonight, so I am making a motion to table that when we get to that part. Any other changes to
Your
the
guys' lost.
agenda?
The superintendent report? Then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other changes?
We will have some discussion, but the capital review purchases, we may table a portion of it after we have some discussion, but I think from operations standpoint, that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
But we'll get into that further when I give report on operations.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Lindsay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. We will look at public comments. I think that's Shelley, right? Put on your rebel recognition.
Yes, if it's all right with you, I'll have my students come up over here.
Yes.
And is this okay if we just?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, we're good with that.
Thank you, first of all, for allowing us to have a little rebel recognition for the arts. I really appreciate it. We had an extremely successful year again this year, just like last year, and so I was just so proud of their hard work and being able to get recognized for that. I'm just going to go through and kind of talk about some of their successes and then ask my seniors to talk about their future plans for this year. So first I'm going to have Riley step forward. Riley Montplaisir received a superior as well as a best in category in Minnesota State High School League region competition in drawing, which in my years of experience is kind of unheard of to have a freshman get the best in that category. So congratulations, Riley. Then we have Annie step forward. Annie Wally also received a superior rating and a best in category in the region of film-based photography, or in the category. So congratulations to Annie. That's another one of the fields that actually not too many schools are continuing with. So we get a lot of kudos for that, for still having black and white and working in the darkroom. So it's a tricky one. It's not automatic, it's not instant, so good job. And Olivia Egru, if you want to step forward. Olivia this year won the Best in the Show and the People's Choice Award for region competition with her painting. So an amazing feat. We've never had somebody get both Best in Category or Best in Show as well as the People's Choice. So that was an exciting thing for me and for all of us. And then I'm going to ask that you just recognize Grace Herzog. She's not here tonight because she had to work, but in December we participated. We had 3 people participate in Scholastic Arts, and Grace was one of those people that won a silver key. Scholastic is national, and then it's also state. So through the state, they give out a gold key, a silver key, and also an honorable mention. And Grace received a silver key for that. In January, we participated in the MSUM High School Art Exhibition, which is tri-state, so it's Grand Forks, all of Fargo. It really circles out into part of Minnesota. It's a really awesome opportunity for our students. So Grace got an honorable mention for her black and white photograph in that competition. And in regions, Grace got a superior in film-based photography, a superior and best in category in digital photography, and an excellence in ceramics. So she did a really good job there. Grace Schmitz, if you'll step forward. In December, Grace received a gold key for her self-portrait drawing, self-portrait drawing.
Can't say that 10 times
One of them
fast.
is going to get me. And so received a gold key for that. In April, Minnesota State High School League region competition, Grace received a superior in ceramics, an excellence in sculpture, an excellence in digital art, and a superior as well as best in category for printmaking. So great job there. And last but not least, Caden in December got a Scholastic Art Award of a gold key for digital photography of your grandfather. And in January at MSUM, Caden received a best in category in photography, so kudos for that, because that's a lot of difficult schools, Fargo, Moorhead, you know, all of those big schools. So it's pretty exciting to get that award. In April then, Caden got an excellence in sculpture, a superior in crafts, and a superior in mixed media. So great job. Also, if Caden, you want to start, I'll have you go ahead and talk about your plans, and after that, I'll let Grace Schmitz talk about her plans.
Okay, so I'm planning on going to MSUM for either an art history degree or a photography degree.
Grace?
After I graduate, I plan to go to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, but I'm not sure what exactly I want to major in yet.
Awesome. So thanks so much for you guys for coming, and thank you so much for giving us this time. We have a board up sitting over there too, and if people want to check out some of our other awards, we just brought a portion of the ones that were in region competition. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, I was blown away.
Yes.
At the art
yeah.
show.
At the
Art
art
show.
show, the talent that is in our school and what you do with them, Shelley, it's amazing. There's so many, you just
Right.
like, oh my gosh, look at this drawing, or look at that painting, or that sculpture.
Right, and I
So
was
many
stopping and
wonderful
looking and I
things.
think, my gosh, that was like with pencil, and I was like, how in the world do you guys do that? It's amazing, because I am not artistic at all.
Yeah.
They're just super recipient to me, being like push a little bit sometimes, and I so appreciate that. So all of these guys are just hard workers and super talented.
Yeah, so
Very proud of
we
them.
appreciate and thank you so much for representing our school very well.
Congratulations.
I think a round of applause for them. Thank you so much.
All right, then we will move on to 6.1.
Can I stop you?
sorry.
Just
Yes,
one
you
moment. Amy and I were talking on the way over. We just want to recognize a community member that served on the task force a year ago.
Thank you,
Ray-
parents.
Yeah, thank you for bringing them.
Thanks, everybody.
Ray Johnson and his wife Jolynn hosted the Vice President of the United States
Oh,
this
yeah.
last week, and just wanted to recognize Ray. We couldn't pull him out of the field, of course, but I think it's pretty neat to have that in our community and to highlight agriculture and schools. FFA was it Holly or Barnesville? We weren't sure.
Yeah, I'm
There were
not quite sure
students
which-
from the FFA, but just wanted to give a shout out. He won't be able to be here, but just amazing to think that they had that opportunity.
Quite
So
an honor.
very, very big honor. So
Yeah,
just wanted to
thank
throw
you.
that in
Yeah.
since he's a task
Well,
force
yeah, I
member.
was reading up on that. So,
Mhm.
yeah, awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for doing that. All right, so then we will move to 6.1. That is Mr. O'Keefe for the Dilworth Elementary. You're doing it together? Okay, so then 6.2 is also in on this.
Okay, and we gave you just a very brief outline, and we'll call up the math committee ladies that are coming to represent here in just a minute. We wanted to just give you a little heads up where we are, elementary-wise. MCA testing, done, not a hiccup, so thank you. We are looking at preliminary scores, so I just kind of outlined that a little bit here. Next steps, I'm meeting with Lori Doiber and Gwen Moore tomorrow, and we're going to look at some of the preliminary data that we've gotten already from that, and kind of make some, figure out some questions to ask and kind of go from there. And Joe's going to be setting up the same thing.
Yep, we've done the same.
And very good. And STAR testing is almost done as well at both sites. Our fifth graders are the last ones to do that. So next up, again, looking at that data with grade level SPED, interventionist, student support services, and all of our grade level teachers for that. Grade level placements.
Yeah, so Dilworth site, we moved from 5 sections of first grade, we'll have 5 sections of second grade. So Mr. Whitchurch will go from first to second with that group. Nice thing is his classroom is right on the border of the two, so he doesn't have to switch. He'll just have to switch curriculum, so it'll be probably the least restrictive transition we've got there. And then the room across from the district office, the OT, PT room will become our new kindergarten section, which Ms. Gerlach will take that.
And then at our site, we have Miss Dunham moving into 5th grade, and I think that's the only move that we have. Miss Gerlach will be moving to Dilworth to fill the kindergarten position. And then again, the room placements, Joe had kind of talked about at the Dilworth site, and we haven't gotten there yet. The elementary site, we just need to figure out, because we'll have 2 empty rooms for moving forward, how we want to do that. So that's kind of our next thing coming up. I think all curriculum orders have been taken care of and have been, or should be ready to go. The only thing that we're going to look at is the pilot curriculum stuff we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Class lists, we'll be opening Synergy for parents in June, so they'll have access to do conferences for their kindergartners. We do the beginning of the year conferences, first 2 days of school, so they'll have that open up as well.
And that's a change from the past. They've waited till August to open it up. So we're gonna open it up right away. Then the teachers in the summer won't get hit up. It'll just be us in the office. We'll see how it works. If it's a disaster, we'll go back to the old way.
And the last thing we wanted to do tonight was to kind of bring you up to speed where we are with our curriculum review, with our math curriculum. So we met 2 weeks ago, May 1st, we met with math expressions. We've kind of narrowed it down to 2 different curriculums, math expressions and Eureka Math. It's Great Minds attribute. And we've met with the math expressions people May 1st, that was a couple Wednesdays ago, and we're meeting with the Eureka rep on the 15th. I think it's on the 15th there. I think it's round on the sheet. So what our next steps is we all have access to something that Mr. Tygeson has, cohort data from around the state. We can compare our data to the state's average data to all these other schools. We've been looking at the schools around us, the schools that use these curriculums, and kind of looking at their trend data. So we're looking at it from that data perspective as well. And then, contacting people and getting feedback. So the plan is to select one to pilot for the 2019-2020 school year, and it looks like about 4 classrooms. We want to do it at both sites, primary elementary, and then intermediate elementary, between the 2
So
sites.
4 at each location?
No, 2 at each.
2 at each location.
Yep. And I'm going to ask Kayla and Katie to come up. And these are 2 from our math review committee, 2 teachers from our math review committee. And we wanted to bring them along so they could kind of just touch on the process, what we've done, and then asking questions to our teachers.
So we've met a lot, and we have a good number of representatives from each site at each grade level, and we've done a lot of digging into, I think we started with four different curriculums, and have narrowed it down to 2, that expressions in Eureka. We've all taught quite a few lessons out of both of them and looked for pros and cons. We've talked with our grade level partners just to get that more feedback, even though we know that we're the committee reps and the ones who ultimately make the decision as for which one we propose or pose to you. But I think we've done a good job of getting our feet wet with both of the curriculums that we're looking at right now.
Is there one that seems to be winning out over the other one pretty dominantly, or no?
My opinion is that I had one that was like, I was like, hands down, I wanted Eureka from day one. And then we had the expressions rep come, and I know any rep can turn you into a believer, but I went in very level-headed as far as almost as like I was digging my heels in, and he hit all the components I was looking for, and especially ones that, like, the technology piece was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, both from a student standpoint and the ease of students being able to use technology to practice the skills.
not that it would become the curriculum or the teacher, but that it was there as an enrichment or a differentiation piece. And so slick to just say, I know right where you're at, instead of looking through some of these other technology pieces that we have and going, oh, I think
Easily
it might
built
be this
in,
one.
like not, well, where do I go? What do I do? Or 18 clicks to get to this.
Right. And
that
right
was
now,
nice.
we spend a lot of time creating technology pieces for our students, especially presentation pieces that supplement the lesson, and it's all done. So to me, that was like a weight lifted off my shoulders of, oh, I don't have to spend my outside of school time making more slideshows for 100 lessons. And I know that's a component that Eureka does not have. There are 2 phenomenal websites that provide those things, but they're not actually connected to Eureka. So at any time, they could go down and we could be punting again. Another thing that we really wanted was a strong fluency piece. Both of them have a strong fluency piece, looking at those math facts and helping kids to really make those a solid foundation. And so that was kind of made them both even. The one thing that I felt Eureka stood out on was that foundation of concepts from the ground up. And after looking deeper at expressions,
They all start with E's. Eureka, expressions,
Yeah.
visions. It was really hard. Everyday math, it was hard to keep track.
right.
A lot of E's.
Yep, but I learned that expressions really has that component there too. I just didn't see it right away because your head starts spinning looking at all these different curriculums and
It's a little overwhelming.
yeah, yeah,
All the books. and everything else.
right.
But we
And-
started with a rubric. I think that's important too.
Yes.
As a committee, what are our non-negotiables? Our curriculum has to have this, and then what are it would be great if it did, but we could get by if we didn't. So that's kind of how we narrowed it down to the original 4.
Right.
And then kept going back to that too, which was helpful.
Right. And getting to the 2 that we're at now, we really, I think one of the big pieces was staff buy-in.
Right.
And that we have to look at the future of which of these 4 is something that has the ease for teachers to jump into without feeling that overwhelming, I don't know how to follow this, it's too much prep, it's too much, so Bridges was one that we looked at that came very highly recommended. However, it would be like being run over with a steamroller trying to get it all going. And if we bring that to our district, to the teachers and say this is what we're going to do, I don't think we start off on the right foot. And we really needed to choose one that hit all of the components and didn't say, oh, this hits all the components. You
Figure
just
it
have
out.
to love it because it's the real world. If you come in with a negative attitude about it, it's hard to get past that.
Okay.
So I think of the 2 that we have right now, they're both ones that the teachers would feel comfortable with.
User friendly. Not easy. I don't have to do anything, but
Right.
I don't even know where to start. What
Right.
do I do? You can pick up the manual, read through it, and it makes sense, and not have to read it 4 or 5
Right.
times.
Yeah.
The thing I think we really liked about expressions was the fact that it's not a Minnesota based, but their biggest clientele is Minnesota. Demographic wise, I think that was huge, but it's also, they have the regular Common Core standards, but they also have the Minnesota supplement standards. And we asked them some questions about, well, we know math and art and all those standards change all the time. What happens if our standards change? And they go, we'll be working like crazy to get them because our biggest clientele is from Minnesota.
Right, and they did say that they basically used the Minnesota standards to write their curriculum. I wouldn't say it's based on them. It's not like some of them are
Trying to sell you as their
Yeah.
right. But Eureka, that was one thing that as much as I loved it, I couldn't get past. Was they gave you a very simple spreadsheet showing these are all the Minnesota standards, and here are the ones we hit. Here are the ones we hit in a different grade level. Here are the ones we don't hit at all. And there weren't any for 3rd grade. There weren't any that weren't hit at all. But there were quite a few that were taught in 4th grade and 6th grade. And it's like, well, so I have to pull from the 4th grade curriculum and pull from the 6th grade curriculum to teach a 3rd grade standard for them to be able to pass the MCA tests. And I think any good teacher will say we don't teach to the test, but the
We
same
teach
time.
the standards.
Right.
We test the standards.
Yeah, so that was frustrating, and I think that would also be a hard sell to teachers of that, hey, everything's right here, except
This is
these
it.
7 lessons you have to pull from a different grade level, and then what does that grade level do? In fact, I think there were some 4th grade standards pulling from an 8th grade.
Yep, there were
Yeah,
8 of them.
so, yeah.
8
I
altogether.
think the biggest thing with that was it wasn't so bad when they were taught ahead of schedule,
Right.
but like when a 5th grade standard wasn't taught until 6th or 7th, it was like, well, they have to know that in 5th grade.
Yeah.
So that was hard. But it'll be interesting to hear next, or Wednesday when we meet,
Right, so
what
we'll,
their thoughts are.
this Wednesday,
from
we'll
the
hear
rep.
from Eureka, and maybe everything will flip, you know,
Maybe.
I don't know, but,
But at least we know, so with expressions, none of the teachers have to give up creative control, so they can still design anything they want. And the neat thing is the tech piece, so you've got paper pencil if you want, you've got technology, so you've got some seasoned vets that maybe aren't very comfortable. You can ease them in with that piece where some of the other ones that are tech savvy are gonna just go with it. But you give any sort of its immediate feedback, you can go through a list of 30 kids, 20 kids, whatever, and it will tell you literally what standard you need to reteach. It can say, all right, you had 70% failure rate on this standard. All right, let's go. It will dig in
Just
and
that
do.
curriculum does that?
Just
Well,
that
we'll-
one?
Just
we'll
that
see,
one?
yeah.
well, your
Eureka might come with
Eureka
something, but-
doesn't, as far as we know, we
Doesn't
haven't
show
seen a
us.
technology piece that goes with it. Aside from the teacher, like, the online, the manual is online, and that's about, and their Blackline Masters online, but we haven't,
And there's a whole bunch of digital suite stuff that comes with
Right.
it. But again, it's pulling from.
yeah, and a lot of the digital suite stuff is PD, like, here's a,
Video to watch.
yeah, a video to watch for how
But
to
it's
teach
really
this
for
lesson.
The class,
Right.
the kids.
Yeah, or, yeah, for the kids to watch, which,
Who are the companies and what's the copyright?
2000, oops.
go ahead.
Houghton Mifflin for our expressions, and that's a 2018.
18.
And we did ask the question, but when they're on like a 6 or 7 year review cycle as well. With that, they have some schools in Minnesota that are still using the 2011 version of that, and they're.
So since you guys have them coming in on, what, Wednesday?
We have
Yeah,
Eureka.
Eureka. coming on Wednesday.
I'd be real curious to know what their plan is with the Minnesota standards being
It-
updated in 2021.
The gentleman that we've talked to is very confident that it's a New York company. It is
Eureka.
Eureka.
The
Yep.
salesman for it is very confident.
Yes, because we asked him that question already.
We gave him a
about the
chance to
correlation.
badmouth the other group
Yeah.
that we told him that Eureka was coming in, so.
And the thing about it is he worked for Eureka, and that's Great Minds who does that. And I'm not real positive on, but they just re-upped their their copyright too. I
like the idea of a pilot.
yeah.
I like the idea of the pilot because
Yeah.
it gives us time to figure out what's happening with the standards. If there's going to be any changes and.
We
Right.
talk to as far as it's every grade level at both sites, and then when it comes time for PD, we have an idea of
Exactly.
this was the part I didn't understand, or this is where we need support as I went through it. So it's not just, well, do we just bring the rep in and have them talk about it, but show me this and can be more productive professional development than just have somebody come in and tell you about their product.
Right. And I know one question, 'cause we did ask about the standards with expressions, and that Minnesota's looks at our standards in 2021, I think. And so with their curriculum being 2018, their newest, and I think it was a 6-year commitment.
Yep, it's 6-year commitment.
6-year commitment, and then we wouldn't be able to change in the middle. So whatever we get for 6 years, if it's expressions, we keep that one, and we might have to then supplement for a little while. Personally, if that's what we recommend, I would hate to see you say no, because the standards might change, because we have teachers now that with everyday math, it's not hitting all of our standards, but we are supplementing and pulling to hit them. And so if it ends up being the better curriculum, even though those standards might change, you've hired professionals that will step up and find any holes.
And I think you'll have that with any curriculum.
Yeah,
Standards
absolutely.
change,
Right.
nobody's gonna
Right.
have it.
And we don't even know
tomorrow.
what areas they're going to look to change.
Right.
So-
And it may be one grade
Maybe
level, not
minimal.
another, and
Yeah, and the other thing that sold me on expressions so far was that Purchasing it gives you everything. Like we asked, well, there's like a few different digital pieces. How much more is that? And it's not. It's, no, everything is included that you need except manipulatives. And that those can be purchased by looking and seeing what do I need for my classroom, what do I already have, and buying pieces or buying the whole set.
Yep.
So that was nice, that
That
you
was
didn't
really
have to
cool.
look at, now we have to subscribe to this, and it's a district
Another
subscription for $15,000. So, yeah.
Do you have any questions for us? The team has done a fantastic job. I mean, it's a very overwhelming thing to start with so many. And remember, especially when they all start with E's. I mean, honestly, it was like, yeah, it was crazy. But I think with Fidelity, we've really followed a solid plan going through this year. Feel comfortable with everyday math again for next year, just because we have to, because we want to make sure it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Well, thank you.
So would your guys' grade levels be the ones piloting, like you?
I offered, I would volunteer to
Yep.
pilot for third
Yep.
grade.
Yep,
And I'll represent Fifth
mm-hmm,
for the district.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
Otherwise, we have someone at each site, at each grade level, would be the intention.
Yeah, if possible.
We'll see what not everybody on the math review committee wants to pilot, so we'll see what that looks like. Once we hear from the guy on Wednesday, we'll have a better idea of what we want to do.
It is definitely a big undertaking
It is.
to pilot.
But I think you have to do it.
Right, and I can understand why some people aren't willing to, because you're jumping into something without any professional development and hoping that you can do a good job and that your kids will still meet the standards.
But if they don't, the data will just.
And we'll make some time available this summer once we get the pilot, who's gonna pilot, and make sure that they have adequate time to get prepared.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else you guys have for us? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board committee reports. Well, I had a community ed meeting last Wednesday evening. And they are looking at purchasing a new software. And that would get out instant messages and cancellations immediately on any activity that is coming that needs to be canceled. This software is $849 per month. And they're looking at, that would be at like a $3 per activity increase for them, for any student that is on any of these programs. And currently, like Detroit Lakes and Moorhead uses this system. And they have rave things to say about this particular system. And so that is what they are looking at doing. They're also, we're recommending that, where did I write all of this down? Sorry. Ticket sales would be anytime that anybody is using the facility, whether it's a scheduled basketball game, whether it is a traveling team, it would go through community ed. They would have a sheet saying what activity it is, your ticket number that you're starting the event is, the ending ticket number, so there's no question of anybody as far as ticket sales, 2 people signing off on that. And so we just felt blanket across the whole district and not just traveling teams that are coming in using the facilities that way. We looked at fees that, tiered fees that people are using. Of course, if in-house gets first priority, traveling teams that are, if there's a facilities are available, can use those things.
It was a good meeting.
It was a very, very productive meeting. Yeah, Brian was
Very
there
positive.
to answer questions. Trying to think what else.
Is, you know, across the boards as far as like community ed, I look at like, and I've brought this to your attention before, but DGF as far as like even just their community ed baseball program, we charge more than like Holly does, but we are offering the same programming, we play, you know, that kind of thing. Would that $3 increase activity fee per kid be necessary, since we do, I mean, charge more for our activities?
Well, according to the committee that met, they were in agreement for $3 per person per activity.
Yeah, we didn't, they didn't get into discussion on individual programs
No.
as far as, and
So when you say, I just want to clarify, when you say $3 per, so per activity or per child that signs up, so what if they sign up for like 7 activities through the summer? Would they have to have an extra $3 per each thing they sign up for? Or is it just a one-time?
well, I think what we have to do is just have the policy committee meet.
Yep.
And then just take the recommendations. That's the next step,
Okay.
is just bring it to the policy committee.
So
Because
an
they,
addendum to a policy that hasn't been updated since 2008, and that's what
Okay. Okay.
he's looking at, changing some of that.
And then just another thought, so you
Yeah.
said it was $849 per month.
Mhm.
Is this something that we can use district-wide, or is this just gonna be for community ed?
So this was just
well,
community ed.
it's under the community ed. So is it possible that somebody else, if they want to be under that umbrella, could utilize it? Yes.
Well, I was just thinking like when we, you know, say we're calling school off because of weather. Is it the same kind of thing, or is that just, that's just different?
I don't think we could get any quicker than we can do with
Yeah,
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's an instant alert system that just hits everything.
Do we currently pay for that a month, or is that just something we already have through our IT?
We have annual, I don't know how many, a lot of these, what?
I think it's based on students.
Yeah, most of them are based on our population, and then it's, usually we sign up for a 3 or 5 year commitment.
Oh, okay.
You know, so that's why a lot of times when you look at, on our textbook, on the capital deal, you'll see that we spent a lot of money, particular years on technology, because that was when we had the leases that came up. So that's one reason I want to get this stuff tracked on there, so we know exactly when the big 3 year, because, again, I don't know which years we got which things, but it should be on there.
Anything on there? That was all I can remember to bring forward as far as,
Yeah, the big thing is that policy just
That
needs to be
policy
brought
would be
forward to
coming
policy
forward.
committee.
Yep.
That's the next step.
yep.
Last Thursday, May 2nd, Brian and I had joint powers committee meeting, and it's the second one that I've gone to. I mean, and just a little background is that you get together with some of the community leaders from Moorhead and Dilworth so far. And Brian and I have expressed hopes and wishes that we can expand that into more of Clay County. But basically what they do is that we get together, get updates on the communities. Brian and Brandon both gave updates on, or they will be giving updates on their career academy in September. And then in addition to that, we also have speakers that come in, and we kind of listened to, this last time it was a gal from JPC. Was that it? No. PHR. She was a human resource director talking about the different talents and trying to fill those needs throughout Fargo-Moorhead, which kind of fits into the piece where Brandon and Brian are talking about a career academy and how they fill across the board with the workforce. It's not all the 4-year degrees that they're needing, so that was kind of she was a good speaker. And then last Tuesday, operations met for 2 hours. And we can go through, if you guys have any questions, I know Brian will probably go through some of that stuff. He's got a handout, but we did get that on our email. We spent 2 hours, we had good discussion. But ultimately in the end, we all left in agreement with, you know, what will be traded in as far as some equipment, outdoor equipment and stuff like that. And then ultimately, I don't know, immediately after the meeting, minds were changed. And So that is what I'm coming forward tonight, is that there's some outdoor equipment that, I don't know what operations is gonna have to get together again, and talk to
Yeah.
James and, see really what the needs are and, what they're gonna be using it for.
So
and-
individual minds were changed after the meeting, is that what you're saying, or?
Well, mine was not.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there was, James and Raleigh had gone and looked at some equipment afterwards, and they changed their mind on what pieces of equipment we should be trading in versus keeping. And
We're not ready for a recommendation, bottom line. I'm
right.
not.
I mean, when we left the meeting, we had an idea.
Yeah.
We actually had an agreement. I mean, this is what's going to happen. We're going to trade in this stuff, and we want to get it done so that they have the equipment they need for summer upkeep and keeping up the lawns and stuff like that. And then that got changed in their minds. And then we went through I think the capital got switched again. I mean, just off of that, what
Yeah,
those two gentlemen had said. But for myself, we spent 2 hours in discussion, and I got a recommendation from James as to what he would like to see, but then that got changed. So to me, it just
So do you
doing
have
due
a
process.
time to meet again?
Well, that's, Raleigh and Ryan are not here, so we need to
Okay, so
get
not-
together.
okay.
Yeah, we don't have a time yet.
Okay.
But I guess, I just need to make sure that they have what they need and that we're doing this
Mm-hmm.
good within our budget. And we had that settled before we left, and then it got changed in some people's minds, and, yeah, I'm not comfortable with just saying, yeah, let's just go ahead and do that
Right.
without having a thorough discussion
Yep.
again.
Well, that's what the committee's for.
Right,
Yep.
right. Well, we spent 2 hours and I thought we were good, but I guess not. So, it's frustrating, but
Okay.
anyway. So that's my recommendation, is just, to
Nothing.
table the
Yep.
outdoor equipment piece of that, but the rest
Yep.
of it. There was another interesting conversation about the rugs that we're looking to purchase, and we can go through this again if you guys have questions. They're gonna be a little bit more expensive, but the rugs will have like a Rebel logo on them in some of the entrances to the school, and I'm all for that. I think it's gonna look nice, and it will help improve some of the aesthetics of the, people coming in and stuff like that. So I think Tammy was gonna get a better ballpark on a bid on how much those cost.
Yeah. We get to 9.7,
Yeah.
because really,
We can go through
what
it.
you're gonna do tonight is prove a target.
Okay.
That's really all, because we don't even know yet on which pilot we're gonna be doing for sure. All of that has to go into the capital. So, it's just putting dollar amounts into it, here's the total, and then we'll bring back to the board on these particular individual areas. So,
Okay. Lindsay, did you have any?
Oh, I didn't have any.
Wow.
I know, it's a miracle.
David?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, and so like I said, I'm making a motion to, no, I guess I don't need to make a motion, we're scrapping the superintendent
I'll
report.
talk about it
for
during
tonight.
the,
Yep,
Okay.
it's really
Okay.
on every item, but.
so I will go on to 7.1, this is the approval of the April 22nd regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Amy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lindsay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This is the consent agenda under claims and accounts, $125,093.63 is the board bills. There's donations in your packet, resignation, and a retirement. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by David, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Amy. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.1, this is the tentative class of 2019. And that list is also in your board packet. Anybody see if any questions, you would need to call on that. Otherwise, this is what we have forward right now. So we're looking for a motion to approve the tentative class list.
So moved.
Motion by Lindsay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by David. All those in favor say aye.
Right.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.2, this is the record disposal. We do this every year. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Amy, is there a second?
Second.
And second by Lindsay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to the extended school year contracts. All of the teachers and paras are listed below with their dollar amount and how many hours that their contracts would be for.
So moved.
Motion by Amy, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. And 9.4, this is the school nursing agreement. Brian has that.
Same rate, it hasn't gone up at all, which is good.
Okay.
Any questions on it? So this will just be one we need some signatures for afterwards.
Okay.
So I'll just leave it with you guys.
All right, looking for a motion for that. Motion by Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.5, this is the non-certified contract for Marcia Spicer, paraprofessional, effective April 24th. Is this, are we full with paras now? Is this, because I mean, I think we were short one and.
We're never,
Okay.
it's a moving target on a day-to-day basis.
I was gonna say,
Seriously.
I was trying to do the math and I'm like, we must be 2 or 3 short right now, maybe? 2?
2.
Okay.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, go ahead, David.
Okay.
Second.
David and Lindsay seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Same sign. This is the school board calendar revision. And this was talking about in July. The start times or the dates?
The dates. So
Okay.
right now, of course, we know that we meet the second and the fourth Mondays. My recommendation would be to align it to where we've got to make some decisions for the bond. And the fact that July has 5 Mondays just works out much better, especially with the 4th. You know, we're trying to meet right after the 4th. That's not a very productive meeting. So if we move it to the 15th and the 29th, it sets us up much better. So that would be my recommendation, go to the 3rd and the 5th Mondays.
Just send out
15th
a,
and
just.
29th.
Yep, everything will be updated tomorrow.
Perfect. So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to 9.7, Brian's handing out some very tiny,
I don't-
tiny words.
I had to get it on one sheet.
I'm old, Brian, they are so
Oh,
little.
my goodness, Brian.
Now, you've probably seen it already, okay, so it's the FY '20. Again, what you're doing tonight is simply, you make a decision on which things you want. I need approval of the budget, because the budget allows us to get the work moving forward. I'm not ready to bring some recommendations forward, especially on equipment. Remember, in the first place, we don't even have 2 quotes on some of these things. Even if we're deciding which ones we're gonna trade in, we don't have 2 quotes on where the heck we're gonna trade them in. So we got more work to do on that. So we'll have an operations meeting before we do that stuff. You're talking $100,000 worth of equipment. Okay, when you look down there, that's 109,000 or 106, whatever, I can't read it either, my eyesight,
Yeah.
would trade in, so. But the things we've got to start processing, of course, the athletics. Joe has to be able to set up for getting that stuff moving forward. We know that has to happen every summer. So again, proving the budget, overall budget, tells us that we can move ahead with some of these things. That we still have to come back to you and say, here's who we do. We know that certain ones are monopolies. I mean, only so-and-so does the floors. We get a date lined up dead week in July and all that, that works. The carpet, we've already purchased all of our carpet, so it's just labor that's left, which is nice. Okay, so that's coming down. Classroom requests, we don't have a lot of them right now. There may be some more submitted, and we know that whether we put it under classroom requests or whether we put it under facilities for tables for the high school commons area, that was something we talked about at operations. So again, there's a few of these extra pieces that will continue to be updated. Now, for the real small writing over on the right side, and this is more of just of a heads up so that when you're going back and you're looking at the FY20, you'll notice I put in the different funding streams, and some of these are big-time estimates. The LTFM, we got $725,000 approximately. Capital and Safe Schools, I took that from the new What If, and it's still not even up. They got different numbers on it, Cindy. So I just put both of them in. We know it's over 400,000 between those two. And those are typically two of them that we utilize when we're purchasing these things, especially health and safety and such. We use the Safe Schools money, some of the tech equipment, the cameras, and so on. The excess levy, that's something that I haven't put in before, but I thought it's important for the public to know. This goes back to 2013. 2013, when we passed, we went to the voters, we asked the voters to approve second ballot question, to have the one-to-ones and such. Mm-hmm. That's basically the amount of money it takes every year to have those one-to-ones. So we told the voters that we would take and dedicate so much of that operating levy towards this. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge it, so that if people say, well, is that just going in for salaries for people? No, we're dedicating $200,000 of that money that was generated by the excess levy towards this, what we said we would use it for. So just a little bit to help with the public comments and all that. People hear that we have personnel internally. I mean, our own admin give Jake crap all the time. We all do, because he said she's good at it, but we spend a lot of money every year, as you see, on technology, but it's a commitment. It's an infrastructure commitment that's necessary. And again, this year we got $350,000, close to. And that's yearly. So some of the other things that are not in yet, fine arts, we don't have any yet. We've got some former requests. The fine arts department needs to sit down. I asked the principals to get them together and have them all sit down, and I need to see a long-term plan from our fine arts department, not individual requests. We need to know, are they on the same page? Because sometimes there may be a perception that they're not always on the same page with each other. And so it's time to bring that, common vision, common mission. So the food service, of course, you notice on the top right, I put grants. So the total, when you see this total of revenue coming in 1.4 million, no, we don't have 1.4 million to spend on capital. Okay, that's including the LTFM money. There's a lot of limits that we can use LTFM money for capital purposes. We have a lot of red tape we have to go through if we're going to use capital purchase for LTFM. But my point is, there's $700 and some thousand. We can make some decisions on how much of that and start identifying on these. And that's why you see with the carpet, I put LTFM next to the carpet, so that we know that we dedicate that. We take that money out of there. So what the target I'm asking for is the same target we used this past year, is $900,000. So when you look at the bottom and you see this running tally of $697,000, and then you see that number in red, that one changes every time we add something over to this. And it just subtracts it from 900,000, tells us how much we have left to work with. We had some major purchases. We've got the pilot for the textbooks for the elementary. So we've got some of those things that we haven't dealt with yet. We have a budget for outdoor equipment, but we don't have anything in for roof repair. We always have some of that, but again, that will be LTFM. So I'm real comfortable on the things that we've got coming in that are left, that we should be on track with the budget. But I would ask you to approve the budget, the working budget, and I don't plan on bringing any of the outdoor equipment forward that will be board approval, all of those items, because we need multiple quotes on those.
Right.
So we're not ready for it. So if you just approve the working budget, and then we'll keep updating this, anything that's big equipment, we got to bring those things through individually anyway.
So our target's 900,000.
900,000 would be, I think it's a good working target again.
Okay.
And if we have to go over that, then I'll be coming back. But I'm looking at 900,000. Unless we tap into more LTFM, then the target could go up. But we don't have any more capital. I don't want to go into safe school money. You know, I want to hold on to as much of the LTFM as possible and safe schools money, so that when we hit the retreat in June, we can talk about how we may be able to fund some of these projects with the referendum.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you. So this is 9.7, looking for a motion to approve the fiscal year 20 projected working capital budget not to exceed $900,000.
So moved.
Motion by David. Is there a second? Second by Amy. Any questions?
And we will call for we need an operations meeting again.
Okay.
We'll send out an email.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna reword that first purchase. It'll say working budget.
Yep, so kind of like the word by,
Yep.
and then not to exceed, okay?
Perfect.
Yep. So there is a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to 10.1, this is the U.S. Solar Fixed Discount Sunscription Agreement.
So, I really couldn't believe, I'm glad that you guys were here anyway tonight, that you had to be in the FM area, because they've been extremely patient. I mean, you think back to when we started talking about this stuff, this was probably what, back in October, November?
October.
You know, and I'm always concerned, and they've heard it, I have worries about setting up things for 10, 15 years after I'm gone, that I don't want to have anybody ever come back and say, what the heck were you thinking on that one? So I wanted to make sure that we had something that was a cautious, conservative approach with it. I've talked to our attorneys who evidently, Trevor evidently must work with your attorneys quite a bit on a lot of these contracts, which I wasn't aware of, but Trevor said, I've seen so many of these, and actually he said this was probably one of the friendliest one for a school district, so, which is good. There's two ways of doing it from what Trevor told me, and you guys can, if you have questions for them, but from what my understanding after I was talking to our own attorneys in some of these different agreements, there's two different approaches, and I've received an email from Kevin and Trevor in a conference call with them about it, where ours is more of the conservative approach. It's a set dollar, it's a set amount, it's a penny. So we don't have to, again, it's kind of like putting your money into the bank. Are you putting it into the money market? Or are you putting it into other things? We're making a very conservative way of approaching this. We're going to be guaranteed a penny less for the cost of all of our usage. Here's when you look, here's what we're agreeing to. Here's what this past year's would look like. So after lots of phone calls and which Jane was really good about leaving me probably 6 to 8 messages in between every time I actually got back to her, and that's not far off. But so if we look at the usage, the previous bills, bill credit, so XL gets, you know, this rebate that's set up, and getting these solar gardens moving forward. The good thing is, we were, you know, current concern was, well, what happens if the rebate's gone and all of that? So the language is in there, right in 10, and that was part of what we were going back and forth with. There was, as you could, David, you probably saw, there was 12 different recommendations that Kevin and Trevor had. And we had agreement on 10 of them right away.
Right.
And the thing that I appreciated was, these guys were great to work with. They added 11.8 on indemnity, which is something I just wanted to, coming from a construction family, I've seen getting lumped into third-party lawsuits and what else, not that I didn't want to take a chance on happening. So I wanted to make sure we had indemnification from any of that. So basically what we're doing is, they take our usage, you got Excel who's providing, we got the bill credit. You can see from this past year, it should be about a $20,000 savings at 100%. If it goes to 120% capacity, which we've got, I think they have production for, right, up to 120?
Yeah, you could choose to do that. We would just update the kilowatt hour number.
So if we get more usage, if we add on and we see that we're Well, let's face it, as we add everything we're adding with our technology, our electricity usage is gonna, and Jake's been telling us that we're getting close to maxing out on some of this. So we're gonna just continue to need more energy. There's no doubt about that as we expand these buildings. So this is still conservative. It's just some of the agreements from what I've heard have where it's more, again, remember, this is a fixed discount. There's a variable discount, evidently, contract that's available that give you the potential of more money, but you also can lose the money. So I'd rather have it, we just know it's gonna be a penny less. We're gonna save $20,000 a year. And you got the out clause if all of a sudden things deteriorate, that all of a sudden you don't have the XL backs out and all that. It takes all 3 legs of it to be working, and I'm comfortable with it now. I'd recommend getting into this agreement. It's a 25-year agreement, but it's, all parties are locked in for that same amount of time.
Did anybody have any questions? No? Okay. So looking for a motion to approve the U.S. Solar fixed discount value. Motion by Lindsay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have the work session following right now. Lee came in a little bit ago. He is here. Next board meeting, we will have a fiscal personnel meeting before that, starting at 5, followed by the board meeting at 6 on Tuesday, not a Monday.
Tuesday, 28th.
Tuesday, the 28th.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
We will send out an email on operations and get together, and let everybody know when that is.
Okay.
But we'll have to talk to Ronnie.
We'll see which things we need to get done before the 28th.
Right. So.
If it looks like we need to get the purchases, well, then
Yeah,
we'll have
and
to get a
maybe it
meeting.
won't even be before the 28th.
Right. If it doesn't need to,
Right.
it's just fine.
So,
Okay.
if it is, though, we'll let you know.
Okay. 6:56. Meeting is adjourned.